What's going on, guys? This is Seth Ford here, and today I am back with another Carolina Panthers video. And as you guys know, that the NFL draft is right around the corner, with just less than 2 to 3 months to go. We are in February, which is almost over to March, and then we got 2 more months until the NFL draft. I'm excited for the Carolina Panthers because Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, that crew has done I guess you can say, a better job this year than last year's just atrocious with Scott Fitterer and with Frank Reich and all that chaos. Port with Bryce Young, and of course Bryce Young being benched the second week after the second week of the NFL season last year at his second year. But then after a few games when they benched Andy Dalton, and then Bryce Young went on his surge. But even though we finished 5-12, still I'd say it's a lot better and more improved season compared to being 2-15, the first time ever as the NFL record, a 2-15 season, because they moved to 17 games for just the past couple of years. So I'm gonna try to do a little mini series as the NFL draft is slowly becoming, or is slowly almost here, and just waiting for the NFL draft. And so I'm gonna try to do a little mini series for the Carolina Panthers of who they should draft or what players are gems. Maybe I'll try to do videos that are like what players are busts. But right now, I'm going to be trying to scout for the Carolina Panthers to draft these types of players. As you guys know, a lot of fans are kind of pissed off about, as the Carolina Panthers fans, they're all kind of mad that the Carolina Panthers didn't draft Ladd McConkey. Instead, they drafted Xavier Legette, because the reason why that this guy who was undrafted named Jalen Coker, who I didn't really know too much about, but this guy actually popped off with Bryce Young, and he's a solid route runner and also a solid receiver, passing after catch with a lot of more yardage after catching the ball. So he's a route runner, and also can be a very, in my opinion, can be a physical receiver as well, because he's like 6'3", 6'4" type of receiver. Meanwhile, Xavier Legette had an okay rookie season, though he had a lot of chances that the Carolina Panthers should have won games where he dropped a lot of passes. That's his issue. That's the only issue I have with the Arizona receiver McMillan. He's almost similar to Xavier Legette, where he's a big type receiver, is a high risk, high reward type of receiver. But though the risks are a lot of drops, but also a lot of good passing catches as well. So I'm going to go through the stats of Xavier Legette compared to Jalen Coker, but then the player which is an underrated gem, in my opinion, that the Carolina Panthers should either draft in the later rounds of the NFL draft or maybe sign as an undrafted free agent as well. So Xavier Legette, he had an okay season as a rookie, but though Ladd McConkey had 1K receiving yards, which that dude is actually really good, I was just in denial because I hate when fans just bash rookie players, though I bash Bryce Young because he just didn't really do so well last year, because I was blinded by the fact that the Panthers, which I already knew, the Panthers' offensive line was one of the worst offensive lines, so I had to give him credit there. This year, the first 2 games didn't really seem impressed, and of course, the surge after last year actually had a really good impact on him for next year. So next year is the make it or break it season for Bryce Young. All right, so wide receiver, Xavier Legette, 6'3", 227 pounds, 24 years old. Dude's crazy. He's funny. Overall grade of 2024, he was 90th in the 98th percentile, which is not great so far in the PFF range, which is 59.3. Though Bryce did kind of struggle a little bit getting the ball to receivers, though he actually had a great second half of the year as a Carolina Panthers fan, if you guys know what I'm trying to talk about. All right, receiving wise, not so bad, but not bad. But as a rookie, 497, he was 71st out of 98 as receivers. Not great if you're a rookie first rounder. 4 touchdowns, which is also not great. He had a lot of drop passes, which that is concerning, even though after he had the wrist injury in the beginning of the year. So he was 47th out of 98. Could have had more touchdowns, especially against the Eagles, where he dropped a wide open pass, as that was a diving catch, though he had possession, and he dropped it when he hit the ground, and they would have beaten the Super Bowl champs, which is even crazy to think about. And of course, let me see here. Season stats, we have targets for 2024. He went 81 for 46 out of 98. Reception-wise, 49 receptions, 51st out of 98 receivers. And, of course, the stats, you guys already know about that. He had pass snaps. He had 441 passing snaps, which is 52nd in the league. Targets, he had 81 targets, which is 46 in the league. Routes ran, 417, which is 52nd. Receptions, this is where a lot of fans are kind of pissed off because look at the reception rates compared to the targets. He had 81 targets compared to 49 receptions. A lot of those receptions were a lot of drop passes, so a lot of fans were kind of mad about that. So, receiving touchdowns, of course, 4 was 47. Drops, he had 8 drops this year, which that was not great as a first-round rookie draft. 8 drops, some of them are pretty crucial. He was 85th in drop rate, but he had 8 drops, though some of them were crucial in just in certain games. Not trying to bash Xavier Leggett yet because he's a rookie, so I'll give him time for next year as well. Yards after reception, though this is okay, but he had 10.1, which is 88th overall. And the yards after catch per reception, 2.3. Okay, not too great. 92nd in the league. Passer rating when targeted, 89.4. 72nd in the league. And an average depth of target, 12.6. 27th of the league. All right, so next we have Jalen Coker, who I am going to try to find the wide receiver that is similar to Jalen Coker the next few videos if I do make the series. You guys like this type of series as well. Jalen Coker is 6'3", 213 pounds. He's more like a route runner, but also could be like a physical receiver when needed. He had overall grade, a lot better overall grade than Xavier Leggett. This is why fans are kind of a little mad about Xavier Leggett. He was 42nd in the league over 98th, 478 yards. Receiving wise, 75th over 98. And of course, only had 2 touchdowns this year, 79th over 98. And I think it was hurt a little bit after the end of the last year's season. Though, that right there had a better overall grade than Xavier Leggett, and he was undrafted. That's why some of the fans are kind of mad. I know, I'll repeat myself. He had about 45 targets, which is 91st of 98. 32 receptions, which is 79th over 98. Receiving yards and receiving, and then just saw that. All right. Passing snaps, he was ranked 84th in the league with 298 snaps. Targets, he had 45 targets, 91st of the league. He had routes ran, which was 278. Receptions, he had a better reception rate than, in my opinion, Xavier Leggett, which is 32, which is 79th over the league. Receiving yards, 478, 75th of the league. Receiving touchdowns, 279. He had 1 drop this whole year, which that's why a lot of fans were kind of skeptical of Xavier Leggett, if I can even speak the name. Yards per reception, 14.9. Like I said before, he is pretty good with yards receiving after the catch. And of course, yards after catch per reception, 5.5. Passing yards, passer rating when targeted, 111.2. Average depth of target, 11.4. So there you have it. Compared the 2 receivers, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about a guy named Nick Nash. This guy is almost similar, in my opinion, to a Jalen Coker type of build. He's skinny, but he's also tall. I think that he's more physical in the passing game or receiving wise, but I think he's also similar to Jalen Coker. If this guy is a 3rd round to 4th round late draft pick, in my opinion, or he might even get drafted, it would be a sleeper or a gym pick for the Panthers. In my opinion, this guy is rated a PFF, I guess you can say big board rank, 161, 6'3", a redshirt senior, 195, and he, let's see here, fantasy, no, not fantasy, what does that mean? No. Oh, yeah, there you go. So, this guy had a great, solid year with San Jose State, which is in the Mountain West. So, Mountain West is not a bad football conference, though it is a group of 5 type of conference. So, yeah. So, he had a great, solid year, his senior year. So, he had 85 overall grade. Games played, 12. Passing snaps, 549. Slot snaps. He played a lot in the slot. Kind of like, I guess you can say Jalen Coker can be a slot receiver, but he's also he's a route runner, but he can be a deep threat as well. So slots, he played a lot of slot snaps, 514 wide snaps, 34 receptions, 104 targeted, 171, which is not bad compared to the receptions of the targeted catches. He had 1,382 receiving yards, which is really, really good. Then yards after catch, or yards receiving wise, he had 13.3, which is solid. In my opinion, he had 16 touchdowns, so they utilized him a lot last year. So this guy, in my opinion, could be the next Jalen Coker. So I'm gonna try to find receivers similar to Jalen Coker's build, and I really liked Jalen Coker. Never really knew too much about him before the season, but then he popped off with the Panthers, and now I'm gonna be trying to find the next Jalen Coker. All right, so 2024 comparables. Receiving grade overall, he had 86.9. So in the graph right here on the right, you can see that he had a solid year. Yards per route run, another good grade, which is 2.71. Drop rate, 5.5%, which is not bad. So I guess you can say that's pretty good. Contested catch rate, 50.0%, not bad at all. He did have a lot of man-to-man or one-to-ones in the past game. So he had an overall grade of 82.7 for grade for versus man coverage. So he was solid against the man-to-man covers, and a lot of deep passes. What I watched from the highlights, and I was very impressed. And a lot of catches that were contested were also a lot of deep balls from man coverage as well. So that was impressive to me, and that's why I wanted to do a video on this guy, because I think that he could be a gem for the Carolina Panthers or a sleeper pick, in my opinion. All right, so 2024 advanced stats. We got drops. We got 6 yards after catch. Reception-wise, he was tied 300 for 36. Not great. 4.0. He had missed tackles, which he was first in the league, which is 30 missed tackles, which is impressive. So that's also really, really good. I guess you can say he's also a speedster for his build. Average depth off of target, tied for 147th, which was 13.3. Deep catches, like I said earlier, they played a lot of man-to-man, and he had a lot of deep passes thrown to him. He had 17, which is third in the league, which is really solid. Screen catches, had 5, tied for 308th in the league. Oh, sorry, that was my feet. Slot catches, I guess you can say he's a slot receiver. So he had 91, which is tied for first. And of course, this is what really shocked me the most, and that's why the Carolina Panthers should go after this guy. In my opinion, he had 19 contested catches, tied for fourth place. So he had a lot of great catches that were contested as well. He had slot yards, 1,244, which was first. Screen yards, 20. I guess they really do have many screens. I watched the highlights of him. They did a lot of wide receiver passes. So he can actually throw the ball too, which is kind of crazy as well. So deep yards, which this is pretty impressive, 479, which is 19th in the league. Average, of course, like I said, 13.3, tied for 147th. All right, do we have any more advanced stats? Or that's it? All right, I think that's advanced stats. All right, so the grades that he played. I know that he didn't play in a greater competition, but guess what? Jalen Coker also played in the FCS, or no, Jalen Coker played in the FCS, which is a lower division than where Nick Nash played, and he balled out with Bryce Young last year. I guess, I don't know who that is. That's Sacramento State, I think that is. I don't know. 88.6 overall against that FCS team. Air Force, 72.6, really solid. Actually, just solid in general. The Kennesaw State he popped off that game with a 90.6 overall grade. He dominated that game. Had a really solid game against Washington State, 74 overall grade. Nevada, he had 71.4. Colorado State, 68. I guess I don't know which one how that one game played out, but Colorado State's also not bad either. So he still had a good game. Against Wyoming, 72.5. Fresno State, they really had a good game there. 63.7. Had a good game against Oregon State, 72.3. Had an average game against Boise State, 62.4. And his worst game, I guess you could say, is against UNLV, 52. Of course, have finished off the year against Stanford, 71.9. All right, so that is the player that the Carolina Panthers should draft in the later rounds, maybe in like the 4th or 5th round, or he could be a gym pick if he's undrafted. I think that he will be a great asset for Bryce Young. He's great catching the ball, contested. I think also he plays in the slot too, so that would be a plus for the Panthers as well. And plus, pairing him up with Jalen Coker, Xavier Leggett, then Adam Thielen, I'd say that'd be a cool, solid receiving core. But let's see how everything pans out. But this is a guy that if I were the Carolina Panthers, I would consider this guy in a later round draft pick. All right, guys. Seth Ford here. Y'all have a great rest of the day. See y'all next time. Keep pounding too.